welcome to another lecture of the course Aquaculture. Within the major topic types of fish farming systems, today we are going to discuss about semi-intensive and intensive fish farming practices. Semi-intensive fish farming practices, if you can recall my previous lecture, I told you that fish farming can be categorized on different criteria. One of the criteria was on the basis of intensification. So we discussed extensive fish culture or extensive aquaculture in the previous lecture. I gave you a brief idea about what is semi-intensive aquaculture and then intensive aquaculture. Today we are going to take up that a little bit in detail. Um, what are the characteristics of semi-intensive aquaculture that we can discuss here? That in case of extensive aquaculture or extensive fish farming, what we did, we simply stocked fish seed in very low number or low stocking density. We did not provide any food from outside. The fish present in the pond, they depend only on the natural food available in the pond. Water quality management was also not undertaken in extensive fish farming, and therefore the yield was also relatively low. In semi-intensive, what we do, we increase the stocking density moderately, and when we increase the stocking density, what will happen? The food available, natural food available in the pond may not be enough for all the fish species present in the pond, all the fish numbers present in the pond. So the food deficit, covered by supplying food from outside or supplementing artificial food into the pond so that food is available to all the fishes for their growth. So, in addition to natural food, we also provide supplementary feeding. Since this is utilizing natural food, semi-intensive system utilizes natural food. Therefore, to produce natural food, to increase the productivity of the pond, we need to have nutrients for especially primary productivity. So we may use organic manures and fertilizers for that. Water quality is managed to a certain extent. We have to take care of the water quality as well as level of water or water quantity. Then yield, when you are doing all this, then yield will increase since you have stocked more number of fishes and you are taking care of their food requirement, the water quality, then yield has to be more than the extensive. And this is quite common in many developing countries, especially Asian countries. Examples, we all know that in countries like India, we have small earthen ponds like 0.5 to 1 hectare area, but these stick to only what is written. Whatever earthen pond is available, maybe even lower size than 0.5 hectare area or more than relatively a little more than 1 hectare water area, that can be utilized for semi-intensive aquaculture, semi-intensive fish farming. In fact, if there are many water bodies which are unutilized, maybe bigger than this, and very large water bodies sometimes, and you don't have any fish production or any aquatic organisms production from that water body, you can utilize that if it is possible to manage that water body. This just I have tried to show you that how these earthen ponds look like, community ponds or different other ponds which can be utilized for semi-intensive aquaculture. Here in case of semi-intensive aquaculture, the stocking density of fishes is usually 10,000 to 15,000. There are different fish farmers who may go beyond this range with varying degree of success or failure, whatever you wish to say. And average size here written is 10 grams, but it's not always possible to get 10 grams of fish. In fact, in many places I know they use hatchlings, just hatchlings, which have just hatched out. At some places, I have seen that even yolk sac is attached and people are stocking it. And fish fry they can use. Then they very small size fishes, they are also used. But size may vary depending on the area you are and the supply of fish seeds. Whatever size is possible, you will have to stock. Again, one very important thing is that in countries like India and here Bangladesh, example is also written that out of the total aquaculture area, 63% is for semi-intensive aquaculture. And here in India, we are having occupying 60% of the total aquaculture area under semi-intensive. So that is quite popular, and because of many factors that we have discussed. Then, what are different type of species which are usually cultured under this system, semi-intensive aquaculture system? In fact, in India and other countries of this subcontinent, what we do, we use Indian major carps, and that is the first choice. Katla, rohu, katla on surface, rohu in the column, and mirgal at the bottom. So these three, and we do not restrict ourselves as far as species combination and number of species is concerned. Many more exotic compatible fish species from carps only we have got from outside the country, which what we call as exotic carps, such as grass carp, Tinophryngodonidella, silver carp, Hypophthalmictis mollitrix, and common carp. These are very popular, and they show very good growth rate. These exotic carps, they show growth rate better than Indian major carps, but these are the common species which we can. And recently, Pangasius, Pangaseanodon hypoophthalmus, that has been cultured in India at very large scale, almost every part of the country where inland aquaculture is going on, and they are showing very good growth rate. In fact, I will come later that in certain systems you can get 2 crops per year with a very good production of Pangasius. Then rainbow trout is also now being cultured under this system in some parts of the hilly region of the country. The pond management practices now, when we are doing semi-intensive aquaculture, as I have written in the first or second slide, that you need to have some management interventions in order to get successful yield or better yield. The pond management practices in semi-intensive may be divided into 3 categories: pre-stocking, stocking, and post-stocking management. Let's discuss one by one. Pre-stocking management. That means so far you have not stocked the fish seed. So what we have to do? We have to prepare the pond. Pond preparation, what does that mean? That you have to, I'm not going to discuss the details of criteria of site selection for pond construction and pond designing. But very briefly, I will tell you that there are certain criteria on the basis of which the pond site is selected, and I can tell you that it should be accessible, easily accessible, so that you can transport your produce, and you should have the soil characteristics and water characteristics in the optimal range required for fish growth, and there should be adequate water source without much expenditure. Then you should have the kind of fishes which are hardy and have their market value in the market where you are intending to sell your produce. So that is the criteria, some of the criteria. I have not discussed it all, but how you are going to prepare once pond is constructed, then you have to prepare that. Prepare in the sense that you have to do all the things like um, you know cleaning, plowing, and everything required for stocking the fish before filling the water. Then weeds, if there are any weeds in the pond, then you have to remove weeds also, aquatic weeds I'm talking, because ultimately they may be very problematic to you. In fact, that is menace in many of the water bodies, especially which are um, you know old water bodies like community ponds and all, which are lying there vacant, unutilized for many years. Then we do liming also. We do plowing and liming because, in fact, maybe there are certain um, cysts and other harmful stages of the animals which can later on cause disease or fishes. So ultimately you have to do liming also in order to control the pH. And then fertilization and manuring. Organic manures we use, later on we will discuss that in the management lecture. We use organic manures, especially cow dung, which is very easily available. And then we use certain kind of fertilizers also, inorganic fertilizers, in order to provide nitrogen, phosphorus, and other nutrients necessary for primary productivity, since we are dealing here with semi-intensive aquaculture where live food production or primary productivity is also very important. Then availability of water, good quality water, and how to regulate it. I mean, there must be um, checkpoints to regulate the entry as well as outlet of the water from the pond. And whenever you are needed to replace, or whenever you are needed to fill the water in the pond, there should be provisions for that. That was pre-stocking. Now, stocking management. Once you have stocked the fish, or in fact, we have not discussed that what you are going to stock. Now we have to stocking management. Uh, um, I was discussing so far pre-stocking management. Now we will discuss stocking management, and just after this, post-stocking management. So, how we are going to stock the pond? Procurement, transportation, and stocking of good quality fingerlings, fish seeds of different compatible species of fish in ponds. In previous slides, I told you that there are many different species, compatible fish species that we are going to stock. For example, Indian major carps, or sometimes we increase the number of species by incorporating some of the exotic carps into the combination. So that we have to decide that species which you are selecting, they should be compatible to each other. They are not fighting for their food and space. So that competition you have to minimize. Stocking density, that was procurement, transportation, and stocking. Stocking density, now what density we should use? That depends on the biological productivity of the pond, the amount of supplementary feeding that may be provided, and also one thing which is not written here, the water quality. So uh, it depends on many factors. In fact, that you can keep only that number of fishes which may be kept in the area, in the water body where you are intending to culture properly, where you can provide them food in addition to live food or natural food which is available in the pond. You can supplement with natural food as well as artificial food. So whatever you are supplementing with, everything should be taken care of, be calculated that how much stocking density we can have. Then selection of species ratio generally depends on seed availability, uh, market demand, nutrient status of pond, etc. So what species we should select? You should not blindly follow what is written here or in any other piece of paper. In fact, you should go for having a market survey, that what kind of fishes are fetching good price, and what kind of fishes can survive and grow well in your selected area. in the climatic conditions of those regions. So depending on that, you can select. There are in when we are culturing more than one species in the pond, if you can recall in my previous lectures, then I told you that this is also known as polyculture, when we are having more than one species cultured in the pond. So in this semi-intensive farming system, utilizing the polyculture concept, what we do, we have to utilize the entire water of the pond. So we can introduce some surface feeders which can exploit the food available in the surface, or the space available in the surface region. Column feeder, they will be there in the column, the mid portion, and then bottom feeders, they will be there at the bottom. Now, what should be the percentage? Surface feeders, about 40 to 50%. Katla, Katla is surface feeder, as well as silver carp is surface feeder. But if 40 to 50%, we can divide it like 10 to 15% of Katla and 30 to 35% of silver carp. Then column feeder, only 20 to 25%. Surface feeders, we have given 40 to 50%, but column feeders, we have given only 20 to 25%. In moderately deep ponds, if more than 2 meter depth, if the average depth of that pond is more than 2 meters, then 20 to 25% of column feeder should be introduced. And if the average depth is less than 2 meters of the pond, then we should go only for 10%. I will explain it to you. And in bottom feeders, we can give 30 to 40% of the fishes may be bottom feeders. Mirgal 15 to 20%. Mirgal is bottom feeder. Common carp is also bottom feeder. Mirgal we can have 15 to 20%, and common carp also 15 to 20%. And if there are vegetation, macro vegetation, then we can stock grass carp also. If there is no vegetation, even then you can use grass carp. In fact, grass carp is the top most produced fish through aquaculture in the world. So you can use that also. Now, I was telling you to explain that why in moderately deep ponds, rohu is 20-25% column feeder, and in shallow ponds 10%, because we give more emphasis to surface feeders, because when feed is broadcasted, surface feeders utilize it very well. So they show very good growth rate. Then feed sinks down and goes to the bottom. Then bottom feeders you can also have in good numbers. But the column of the space between the surface and the bottom, that varies according to the average depth of the pond. If depth is more, then column is more. If depth is less, the column is less. So accordingly, the percentage contribution of column feeders is also adjusted. 5 species combination. Here, if somehow, for example, if you are stocking fishes and grass carp, in fact, they naturally feed on aquatic grasses or aquatic weeds, tender aquatic weeds. If supplying those kind of aquatic weeds is not possible for you to feed the grass carp, and you have to spend money on providing them artificial food, then maybe that depends on, again, the market demand and many other factors that you can analyze on your own, site-specific factors. You can remove grass carp but keep all other 5 species, and that is 5 species combination, and here the ratio is given. Now, in 4 species combination, what we do, we go for katla, rohu, then mirgal, and in addition we can use common carp also, Cyprinus carpio. I will tell you about these fishes, that common carp, for example, silver carp or big head carp, these are exotic carps, grass carp. I can tell you about common carp. My own experience, I have seen this in one of the ponds at the research center of CIP. Um, Common carps, they have the habit of nibbling the debris of the dike. So from inside the pond, they keep on nibbling on the um, earthen material and debris, and ultimately that becomes you know the dike starts falling down, and your the dikes of the pond get damaged. So that is one of the problems, and these exotic carps in Indian market do not fetch as better price as Indian major carps usually. But so that is why I told you that you first have to survey the market and then choose the species. Three species, the same: Katla, Rohu, Mirgal, or common carp. Why people are taking exotic carps more? Because they show very good growth rate compared to Indian major carps. So that is why even if they are not fetching very good price in the market, they are being produced in more quantity. So whatever suits you, you can go for. Post stocking management. Now stocking has been done. Now what has to be done? We have to take care of the natural fish food present in the pond, since the fishes are depending on natural fish food, and if that food is not available, then you are also providing them supplementary food, and you are also maintaining the water quality, and then health of those species stocked in the pond has also to be monitored, so that there is no problem semi-intensive aquaculture system. This again, I have just taken it from internet. This shows one of the live foods, Artemia, and there are many live foods which are available, like Daphnia. You can get Brachionas and many others. Some phytoplankton or zooplankton, depending on which species you are stocking. You can uh, uh, use organic manures and inorganic fertilizers in order to increase the phytoplankton productivity, and then zooplankton. And if you wish to introduce some kind of live food, then maybe you can culture the live food from some other source and introduce in your pond, and they may populate to in order to feed your fishes. So live food, managing the live food, and having an eye on the growth of live food in your pond, and providing them sufficient nutrients. I mean, in the pond, you have to monitor that sufficient nutrients are there to increase the pond productivity. So, live food supply or production you have to monitor. Then I have again I have taken it from internet. I have given the source. Um, Artificial feed. If the live food is not enough, of course we have to supplement it from outside. The feed, artificial feed, we have to supplement from outside. This I have shown pelleted feed, but again, in India, most of the farmers have been using, now they are using pelleted diet, many of them, but they have been traditionally using rice bran and oil cake in 1:1 ratio, you can say. And it's always advisable to go for locally available cheap feed ingredients. That is one of the criteria for selecting the feed ingredients for your pond fish. And you know get the locally available feed ingredients. Usually we select from the agricultural byproducts, or whatever ingredient you are using. Try to make your own food, farm food. Maybe if you have to spray in the powder form, then there is no problem, get it in powdered form and then spray. If you have to make small balls, maybe semi solid, you can do that. Maybe if you have to go for making a little bigger balls or keeping it in trays, you can go for that also. But for everything other than the spraying, you will have to take care of nutrient leaching also. And that is why these pelleted food from different companies have become popular. because when we prepare food from at our farm, then many of the things like nutrient leaching and water stability, we are unable to take care. So there are very good quality pelleted feed available. We can use that, or if we want, we can use farm feed, thereby reducing the cost. And maybe if you are good enough in calculating or formulating feed, and then preparing the feed at your farm, maybe you can get good growth rate also. Depending, that is your choice. There are plenty of options available. Then we have to monitor water quality. I told you in the previous slides that water quality is necessary to be monitored for overall environmental uh, health of the system. So here it is written that as per FAO and many other agencies have also mentioned this, that the water color should be little greenish brown, that may be indicative of the presence of plankton also. Transparency, how much transparency should be there, what should be the pH. DO is very, very important, that it should not go below a limit. And then free carbon dioxide, then likewise inorganic nitrogen and phosphorus. These things you will have to keep in check. If you are keeping these parameters to optimal range, then of course the productivity of that pond will be very good. Fish health monitoring, this is again very important point, that you have to be very vigilant and alert regarding the health of your fishes. What we have seen that in fact you have nothing to do, you just make it a habit yourself, or maybe somebody who is really sincere, to have a round of the pond, maybe in the morning, or if possible morning and evening both, but at least once in a day, or if possible twice a day. If you are just taking a round of the pond and you are simply observing the water color, as it was mentioned in the previous slide, water color, and then movement of the fishes, how they are moving, what kind of any abnormality in the case of fish movement, or any abnormality in case of, say for example, transparency of the water, and then you can you can be alert, take necessary actions. And while doing regular netting and all, you can also have an idea of whether fishes are in good health or not. And if you get any such kind of thing, then you can go for um, the appropriate treatment also. For example, if the fishes, um, if you are taking around, if you observe the fishes which are showing erratic swimming, or if the fishes are rubbing their body against some hard substratum or bottom or side of the pond, then there is problem. If they are showing erratic swimming, again there is a problem. If they are not consuming food as they have been consuming, again there is a problem. If they are coming to the surface to gulp air, atmospheric air, again there may be some problem. So if you observe any of these, or randomly when you are netting or you are taking samples, you observe some kind of ulcerative lesion on the fish body, or fins are becoming very fragile, they are breaking down or whatever, then scales are shedding, excessive mucus is there. So any kind of such abnormality if you observe, you will have to take appropriate action, and then you can save the disease to spread from one fish to all in the pond. So that was about semi-intensive aquaculture system. Now very briefly I will introduce you about intensive fish farming, then I will take examples in the next lecture. Intensive fish farming, extensive fish farming, we were not taking any management measures. We were stocking using very low stocking density in case of extensive fish farming. Then in semi-intensive, we moderately increase the number, stocking density, with some management interventions, provided artificial food, supplementary food from outside. But here now in intensive, we use very high stocking density. In fact, here you have taken control of almost everything. completely dependent on artificial feed, no dependency on natural food available. Then advanced water quality management. Here we'll have to monitor the water quality, maybe even in real time. There are many places where people are doing this. Regular monitoring and control of everything, not only water but fishes and other things. High operational cost but high yields. You will get very high yields. It depends on what kind of management measures you are taking, what kind of species you are taking. If everything goes good, then you can get excellent yield. And examples, we can use any type of tanks or RAS or cage culture. They are all the examples. Here, one of the intensive systems has been shown. Um, I think that's all in this lecture. Examples of intensive aquaculture system we can discuss in the um, next lecture. Thank you so much.